All right. Good afternoon. The Creative Commission is located in the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people. We are thankful to be able to live, work, and create in this beautiful area. Yeah. Ready? Live from Studio C, welcome to Creative Third Thursdays. There's your cue. Applause, applause. I'm your host, guest host, Matthew Hawkins. I'm filling in for Jeff Edwards, our regular host. He is currently in Mexico, where I have just recently left. I am the guy behind the camera that creates Around Chilliwack. Around Chilliwack is a little thing that I've made so you can learn where to eat, where to shop, things to do in Chilliwack. You can check us out at aroundchilliwack.ca or follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Oh, and TikTok. We joined TikTok finally. Apparently that's really cool. So third Thursday of the month is when we get to mingle with creative folks and focus on one of them as our featured creative. Creative Third Thursdays is working to connect people and build a community of creative people, starting right here in Chilliwack. How about Studio C, Cowork Studio, or Cowork Chilliwack? Yes, beautiful studio. What a place. Tim McAlpine is behind the scenes in the booth. There he is giving us his little wave. So thank you, Tim, for hosting Creative Third Thursdays and giving us this space at Studio C. So for more info about Creative Third Thursdays, you can go to creativethirdthursdays.com. Creative Third Thursdays is sponsored by the Chilliwack Creative Commission, which is part of the Chilliwack Economic Partners Corporation, and you can learn more about that at businessinchilliwack.com. Does anyone use social media? No one? Yes? We could make a reel right now if you guys want.
Right now at this moment, you mean? Or?
Sure. Some people do. If you want to post anything on your social media, use the hashtag CreativeChilliwack. Then we can see what it is that you've posted and maybe a funny face that I took at some point during the show. So we'll see how it goes. Now, let's meet this month's featured creative.
Hi, my name is Lise Oakley. I am the Executive Director of the Chilliwack Arts Council and owner of Good Creative Agency. Chilliwack is my hometown. It's where I was born and raised. My parents still live in the same house I was raised in. I now live 5 minutes away from them on Fairfield Island, and Chilliwack is actually the place to be. We have a lot of things that are happening in our community. There's lots of opportunity, a lot of collaborations that happen with different organizations and people. And we're at a time and place where people are ready for change and opportunities to explore the arts and the creative economy. Photography is one of my hobbies, and so I often help others out by taking photos or video, and so being in front of the camera is not my favorite. I think there's all these intersections happening as I get older, and it's kind of going back to my roots of when I was younger and a teenager, and art is really what brought people together. So I used to put on punk shows when I was 15, 16 and do zines and create community. And that's another part of it, is it creates community and a place for people to be themselves.
Lise Oakley, Executive Director of the Chilliwack Arts Council, the Chilliwack Mural Festival, plus she owns Good Creative, a creative agency. Please welcome Lise.
Thank you. Thanks.
No cerveza.
No cerveza. No.
No bien. She was asking me what I learned for Spanish on my trip this last week, and
Bad words.
yes.
Yeah.
That's from drinking too much tequila. So, yeah, too much cerveza, bad English, and then I started learning bad words in Spanish. So, worked out well. So, Lise, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, you're a longtime Chilliwack resident.
Born and raised. I was born in the Chilliwack General Hospital. My mom worked there for a number of years, so she may have delivered your babies if you delivered your babies there. And grew up, like I said in the video, my parents still live in the same house that I was raised in on Fairfield. And about 5 years, decided to move. I moved away when I was 18. I didn't feel like Chilliwack was the place for me, and then moved back about 5 years ago with my partner. I have a 10-year-old son. And it's shifted and it's not shifted, but it's a place to call home.
So talking with you before this, arts, creativity has always played a role in your life. Talk a little bit about those like teenage years, what you were up to.
I should have brought my teenage journals. So it really started at a young age. I was really into playing the recorder around the house. And my mom's francophone, so I used to call it la flûte, and then told my mom I wanted to play la flûte. And I think I really wanted to play the, clarinet. But my mom put me in at the School of Music to take flute lessons. And here I was in grade 3 with this big flute, and I could like blow on it for 5 seconds. That was my recital, is just standing up in front of people and blowing, holding air for 5 seconds. But then it evolved, and I was pretty decent at flute, but also really gravitated towards music. So by the age of 13, I was listening to a lot of grunge, like Silverchair and Nirvana. And my mom would always bring us into Vancouver to visit my grandma, drop us off at these festivals or shows, and then just really gravitated to watching these bands. I'd always see the woman, usually playing bass or keyboards, in the band, and I always wanted to be that person, like that woman on stage. But not the flute. Not the flute, although the flute did come back later in life when I started my own band. Yeah. I did play flute and sing and play guitar, so a little bit of the two. Yeah. But over the years, I was very involved in the local music community. There's, I guess you could call us like suburban punk, not quite mall punk, but suburban punk, and we would put on punk shows and music shows at all the different venues around Chilliwack and create a community and an environment for touring bands to play. Sometimes.
So how did you get to like starting those shows? Like you're a teenager, what like?
I think we did it as a collaboration. So we had a bit of a leader at the time, and then she was able to gather a bunch of people, and we just made it happen. So some of it was snail mail or email. This is like chat room era. So we didn't have the internet like we do now. So I almost forget how it all happened, but I think it was email and sometimes even phone calls. Yeah. So we had people from all over touring through Chilliwack on their way to Vancouver, and they would stop in Chilliwack and play.
So were you putting up posters around town at that time?
We were doing zines and putting up posters.
Wow. Yeah.
So a little production.
Yeah.
Little agency happening at 15 years old.
Were you creating the posters too then?
No, I'm not that Yeah.
No, you can't say. I've seen some of your work. You can't say that.
I'm not the designer, but yes, we were creating them and putting them up around Chilliwack.
Yeah. So go from there, teenage years, you're into music, you're putting on concerts, you're playing, and then you step into a band at what age? Where you had a band you went on a tour with? I think it was
I'm a bit shy around playing music in front of people, so it took me a little while. I was dating someone at the time, and he decided he would post-breakup record a demo for me, and so I recorded a demo, and then it was the age of MySpace, if you're familiar with MySpace, and then put my music up there, and then I was getting fan mail, and so that fed a bit of the ego. Yeah. I was in my early 20s.
At what point post-secondary? You went to post-secondary?
Yeah, I think I had in the back of my mind, and maybe this is from parents that were really pro-school, is that I should probably do some education. So I was always entrepreneurial as a kid as well. So I ended up going to BCIT for a couple of years, and then ended up going to SFU and doing my degree and graduating in communications and marketing. So that definitely went hand in hand with music and entrepreneurship and getting music out there. It kind of helped propel that career at the time. And then also being a musician was really the school of hard knocks. When you're booking concerts across the country or coordinating a group of 6 people, you quickly learn how to collaborate in different personalities and how to get people engaged. So that's a big thing about being an organizer, is just trying to get people to engage.
During that time with the band, whereabouts were you going?
I've gone to Newfoundland and back. So
cross country.
Cross country.
Yeah.
It's a big country. A lot of Tim Hortons.
Yeah. Sleeping in the car too?
Shudder at Tim Hortons. No, never in the car. Mostly random people's places,
Nice.
apartments,
Yeah.
on the floor in Montreal. Like, there's so many stories, but all over.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. So then you've done that. You've done post-secondary, and then you've moved back to Chilliwack in the last 5 years, you said. And now you run Good Creative.
That's right, yeah.
When did this start?
As soon as we secured our mortgage, I was able to start the business. So it had been a dream of mine for about a year. So I slowly built up a small client base and launched in October 2020. So at first it was more of a digital focus. And in the last year, we've moved more into the digital creative, so more design and website and content development. So 2020 is when I launched that on my own, and it's going strong in our 5th year. So
awesome.
I have 2 full-time employees who work remotely. So
very cool.
I don't actually get to see a lot of people in my day-to-day. So
your dog,
yeah,
you get to see
my
your dog.
Yeah, he's my best friend. So
yeah. With Good Creative, are projects you're working on right now that you're really excited about?
Yeah, we don't normally go through our RFP process, so that's request for proposals, if you're familiar. But we won a fairly significant one with an organization that represents the 2S LGBTQ AI plus community in BC. So they went through a renaming process and a rebrand, and we're currently somewhat in the middle of that process, but we're able to find a new name. So it's Queer Business BC, and a new logo, a new design, and we're going to go launching into the website phase. So that's pretty significant, especially this time, this moment in history. And just, again, they went dormant during the pandemic. And so it's seeing new blood, reinvigoration. Yeah. So that's probably the most exciting one.
Yeah. So here's a few projects that you've worked on.
Mm-hmm. So we do have a large Indigenous client base. So I have a lot of, I work with a couple nations. Another project that's not up here is the Great Bear Carbon. So they're the largest carbon provider or carbon offset provider Indigenous provider in Canada. So that's actually quite exciting as well. A number of great organizations that are doing good things.
Yeah. Just
we have Dr. Shelley Moore, who's one of our clients, and she's currently in Australia and doing really great things in education around inclusivity and diversity.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So aside from that, which you sound very busy with Good Creative, you decided that you would also take on being executive director of the Mural Festival, which people have heard of the Mural Festival? Yeah, it's very cool. Mm-hmm. Tell us about this little side project that you thought you were joining.
I feel like I was voluntold.
Yeah.
Someone by the name of Amber Price asked me to go for a beer one day. She had seen a photo of me in front of some of the murals, and I think it caught her attention. And then she realized she had met me at an art show in Vancouver when I was living there. And she asked if I would maybe get involved with the Mural Fest or potentially join the Arts Council board. And I said if I would pick one or the other, but I would pick Mural Fest. It seemed to be more interesting for me. This is what our job actually looks like. It's not the beautiful murals that you see. We borrowed someone's truck to move some scaffolding. Amber is getting a lift delivered here. So it's a lot of early mornings, late nights, hot heat. What I'm hiring currently for artist production coordinator for a student job. And I said, essentially, you're like the butler and the bitch to the artist. But yeah, we really prioritize, and that's something that Amber embedded in the festival is prioritizing the artist and the art. So always never lose focus of that. And so that's something where I would say 2/3 of our budget, which is fairly significant, goes back to paying for the artists. We try to do a mix of international, regional, and local. So that's probably the biggest thing that I hear is like, why not more local? We're trying to establish it as an international festival and potentially a destination. So people want to come to Chilliwack and also be proud of Chilliwack for visitors. But yeah, I ended up being a volunteer for the first year, working my butt off. Probably hadn't worked that hard in many, many years, if ever, and really trying to establish the festival with the tools that I had, and then started bringing in a few different key players that helped me with the production and the marketing. And we've just been trying to elevate its profile and just stabilize. Like every year you're trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. We're going to be going into year 4 of the actual activation of the festival. So like the performances and music. By year 5, we should have it pretty nailed down. So it usually takes, the life cycle of an event can take a bit of time. But as you can see, we wanted to bring a bit of like the urban, like looking at the history of murals and the culture around it, and make sure that we weren't losing that. So just making sure that we brought in beatboxers and street dancers and muralists. So yeah, just pulling in a lot of artists all in a short period of time.
And then this year you decided that one half of town wasn't enough to try and do murals on, that you wanted to move over to Sardis and start making more murals over there.
I mean, there's some pressures at play that I don't want to talk about, but I think if anyone knows Dan Sawatsky, who did Giggle Ridge and is an amusement park designer and creator, I had a meeting with him. I found out that he had done, I think, roughly around 125 murals. So I was like, oh, he must know a bit about murals. So I did a cold email. It's like, this guy's never going to get back to me. He's so busy, or he's, up here. Calls me the next day or that day, he calls me and he asks he said, yeah, I'll consult. I don't really leave. He essentially has a compound. I don't really leave the compound, but why don't you come and then you can check out the new hotel. So they're developing Hazelnut Inn. Yeah. That his son is building. He wants to be clear that it's his son's project. So I brought a friend of mine and we spent an hour and a half with Dan, and he gave us some really great advice. And he was like, it's best to think of Disneyland and concentration and user experience of, you turn the corner and then you're like, wow. Right. I just went to Disneyland for the first time in January, and so I got what he was saying after that experience. Very
intentional.
But I think Sardis wants love too, is what I've heard. So we're trying to have a couple little hot spots of murals and see how it goes.
Yeah, that's exciting. Just why not add it to your list?
Why not add it? And
speaking of adding things to your list, you also decided that you wanted to be part of the Chilliwack Arts Council.
I mean, that was a natural progression of, so during the volunteering with the Mural Fest in my first year, we technically weren't under the Arts Council. So there was some negotiation and discussions around bringing the Mural Fest under there so we could access more funding, that we could have an anchor event. So something that would reinvigorate the Arts Council. It kind of had a bit of a decline with COVID, and just sometimes that happens in organizations that have been around since 1960. And we just happened to have our executive director at the time had to take a leave. And so I had been approached on applying, and I wasn't very excited about the Christmas market. I'm not going to lie. Sorry, we have a board member here. I was like, I don't know if I do Christmas, but if I can hire some people to support, sure. So I came on as part-time ED. So Mural Fest takes up a lot of that time, but in the meantime, we've created, I'm just going to speak to them really quickly. So we recently launched the Art Startup Challenge, which we currently have 15 artists that are enrolled, and they do an 8-week program, and then they have to pitch their practice or their idea to a panel of judges for a chance to win $5,000.
Which will be happening
next week and the following week here? On the 28th. It'll be here. Yeah. And so we had 55 applicants for that program, which to me is always a great number of it. I always share that because it just shows the need for supports in the community for the artists. And so we selected 15. All 15 are still there, and I believe all 15 will pitch, and they're really nervous. We have been meeting every Wednesday from 6 to 8 at the at the museum. And then we also started the Anonymous Art Show last year, and it was actually quite successful. So we decided to do it again, and that's on June 6th.
Very cool.
And the Christmas craft market.
Yes. How excited are you?
I'm so excited.
You hear that? She's really excited about it.
I shouldn't diss it. It's really great. I shouldn't diss it because it's the only thing that's been constant throughout the whole the length or the lifespan of the organization.
Yeah.
So
of all
great.
these things that you are a part of,
yeah,
what is it that you love that you do?
I think there's I was trying to explain it to someone when all the artists are in town in the summer, there's like an energy that's happening, and it's not tangible, but it feels really good. It feels really nice to have all the artists there. Things are just happening. When I watch those videos back, I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that because I'm so busy in tunnel vision. Mm-hmm. But it makes me so happy to see Chilliwack alive, and people are excited. The artists will form relationships with people from the community, and they'll continue those relationships without even really knowing, and they'll take the artists out, and that sense of community is great. We have people coming back year after year to volunteer. So we have a really good volunteer list for Mural Fest, which if you do want to volunteer, there's lots of great opportunity. But I think just seeing the arts and how happy people are when they get selected. The downside to that is having to tell people they're not selected. But
that's got to be tough. Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. With everything that you've been talking about, and like especially this startup challenge that you're working on with Community Futures, the bubbling creative economy of Chilliwack. That's very clear. You said there's 55 people that applied for that.
Right.
So there's obviously a need. There's obviously a community of creative people in town. Where do you see this creative economy going in Chilliwack the next 5-10 years?
I think it's growing. You need community champions to lift it up and partnerships. So we work with Community Futures for a lot of the business side of this program, and we couldn't do it without them. But it's also giving us ideas of how we can support that even further through additional funding through the province or other grant programs. For me, it's always when I think about that comment about why isn't there more local artists, or what about the local artists? Sometimes I find the local artists, when you're judging 1,100 applicants, which is what we get for the Mural Fest, and you're seeing this high caliber of art, and then you see some of our local artists that just aren't quite there. To me, it's almost like the idea of wraparound support, where they need to have that mentorship, and that mentorship costs time and money. So you can only select a few artists at a time to be able to ensure that they have those supports while they're doing their first mural. And we've seen great success with Jared Deck, who's, I believe he's Chiacton, but he was mentored through Carrie Lynn Victor. So he started on a small little piece of plywood on their first
Carrie
year.
Lynn Victor, for people who don't know.
Oh yeah, sorry. Carrie Lynn Victor is one of our curators, and she's an Indigenous Stalo artist from Cham Nation. And she's has murals everywhere, and she was able to mentor Jared, and now he's quite busy with his mural practice. So he's been doing a lot of different little things. So it's really important to just see that side of like, okay, we can't just have your good artists on a 8x8 or 8.5 by 11. There's no 8.5 by 11, is there? On canvas, but to scale that to a wall is actually it's a skill. So.
Yeah. So you see this just continuing to grow?
Yeah, for sure. And like I don't like to speak too much in business terms, but we think about like importing, exporting. So we bring in muralists from all over. We want to see our muralists go out get into other festivals and have them like be from here and not necessarily move to Vancouver. And
I think it's important to talk about the business side of it, because we do have to make a living.
I guess it is an economy, right?
For myself, like when I first started, I got told, you're wasting your time. There's no future in this. You should just stick with what you know. And I don't know if you guys have noticed online, but like video is like a really big thing that people request a lot of. And so I'm glad I didn't listen to that advice. And now that we have this, where Community Futures comes in, helps with the business part of it and says, you're doing well with the art. Now let's help us
do this
transition you to
side.
economy.
Yeah.
So.
And you see the wheels turning for all these artists where they've been so focused on their practice, and then they get told, like, someone tries to explain cash flow to them, like, right?
Yeah.
So, but even owning a creative agency, these are things that I've had to learn and get supports with.
Well, yeah, you have two people that work for you that probably depend on a paycheck coming in.
Yeah, and it can be like nothing like having paychecks and to put fire under your butt. But yeah.
Where do you see yourself moving with this creative economy of Chilliwack?
It's a good question.
Stick with the Mural Festival, stick with the Arts Council, or?
I think I'll one day come to a fork in the road where I have to go one way or the other. I'm trying to do the blend of the hybrid model right now of two. I didn't necessarily, Mural Fest and Arts Council weren't in the cards for me when I moved back here, but they've been so rich in learning, just relationship and partnerships and seeing the benefit. But yeah, at some point, I'll have to make a choice, unfortunately.
When I had to sit in that chair, we'll call it the hot seat, the question that I got asked was, if someone out there is just starting their creative, they're looking to branch out in the business side of it, what would be your advice to tell that person?
Right. I'm going to give this advice, but it's also the advice that I think 6 of our guest speakers have shared. So at our Art Startup Challenge evenings, so they run from 6 to 8 on Wednesdays, we've had an industry or an artist or an art administrator like JL, who's in the back from the Cultural Center, come in and present about their journey, but also if they're an administrator, what they're looking for in that pitch or that application. And all of them have said one way or another, DIY. So do it yourself. Don't wait for someone to do it for you. Don't wait for and these may have been someone else's words, but don't wait for the gallery to call you. Don't wait for me to give you money, because we don't give out money necessarily. So just to go out and do it, like put up a show in your own home, or find someone who has a really nice, or a store or a restaurant that has a nice gallery space, and put on your own show and just start doing it. Yeah. And that's something that I had to do. Like, even for your own business, one day you have to decide. I had a job with a pension with the city and had to just do it myself.
Yeah.
And Taras Groves, who is the Chilliwack Independent Film Festival director, he also shared yesterday, is like, be persistent. So you're going to get rejected. And this is something I tell all the students, you're going to get rejected. I've been rejected. I still get rejected on grants, on business opportunities. People aren't going to necessarily want to partner with you, sponsorships, all those things. It's almost a daily thing for me. And you just have to build a bit of thick skin. I think that's what Mural Fest has done for me, is it's actually like, okay, this person says no, move on. I'll ask them again next year. Especially the wealthy realtors, I just go after every year.
Yeah.
No bueno.
And keep going. Keep going, right?
Yeah.
Eventually they will say yes.
Eventually they will. And that's what Taras is saying. He's like, every year you go to tourism and they'd say no, and then go again the next year. And then eventually they see the value in what you're doing, and then people will get behind you, but not to give up. You can apply for your grant. If you don't get your grant on your first one, that's okay. Try again.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest piece of advice.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for coming.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thanks.
Lise Oakley, everyone.
Thanks.